We're joined right now by Mike Russo. He is the CEO of the National Institute for Industry and Career Advancement. Mike, glad to have you. Give me 10 seconds.
We are focused on making sure strategic industry sectors have what they need to continue to innovate. Our major focus is really the development of the nation's talent pipeline to support those sectors. So think of tech-based industries and advanced manufacturing and the supply chain needed to support them, broadening that supply chain. So that's really our main focus.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the problems in finding, we're in this wonderful era right now where we've had super, super low unemployment. And yet the weakest sector for employment has been the strongest sector for the last 10 or 20 years in general, which is technology.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if you think of the proliferation of technology and just how it's growing and expanding, you can imagine it's sort of naturally that you're going to need a workforce. But if you think of what's been happening through the education system, both from a K-12 preparedness for STEM-related fields, whether it's interest or whatever, as well as the rising cost of college, right? You could understand why there'd be an imbalance there.
You don't have to tell me. I got 3 going to college next year, another one in the pipeline, and it's also interesting how you get the mixed levels of outcomes, right? You have a lot of colleges that are very expensive, but the people come out of there with degrees that don't have the value that the same degree might have from an elite institution. And then, of course, you've got so many people who aren't getting that opportunity to get an elite 4-year post high school education. And yet the jobs in the tech industry, I feel like that's right where your sweet spot of getting workers ready to work in tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there, is that A, there's a shortage of talent. B, there's fewer people that can pursue those types of degrees, right? And then how do you make sense of that? So that's really the foundational element, one of the foundational elements of our strategy. So what we're really working on, we also have the National Center for Skills-Based Learning within the Institute. So what we're really focused on is leveraging the existing K-12 system, career and technical education, community college system, but also importantly, registered apprenticeships designed for those industries so people can actually pursue those careers without having that degree. Sure, they can go back and get the degree to go up the ladder, but that's really a foundational pillar of our strategy, getting more people into the pipeline without having to write the big check.
So to really be that fulcrum point from, say, a high school education to a job working on some level at a semiconductor fab and maybe moving on from that.
Absolutely. So, for example, we're a part of the strategies. We're throughout the nation starting, we call it our Gateway Apprenticeship Program. It's GAP. But basically, it's a pre-apprenticeship program. So as we roll that out to the career technical education centers around the country, students that graduate from those career technical education programs in high school will have already checked some of the foundational boxes they need to pursue those careers. And through our infrastructure, National Talent Hub, by the way, is something you should look at on our website. But through that infrastructure, they can transition seamlessly right into those careers and already have some of those skills needed. And if they do that through a registered apprenticeship, which we sponsor, they're able to actually start further up that ladder and get credit for what they've already learned, be of value to the employer more quickly, and also really focus on filling the gaps that they might have, not have to relearn things.
I think about this sometimes when I talk to people who are in the military and trying to imagine transition from the military into a domestic life and corporate life, and thinking about those skill sets that came from skills learned in the military, while those might translate. What are the skill sets that you're talking about that people might have that would translate with a little bit of education into tech that people don't know are tech skills?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So it's another pillar. So we were working on, you think about diversity, more people in the system. I mentioned K-12. Everybody goes to school. So there's diversity built right in, broaden the pipeline. Returning service members is one of the 3 other pillars. Those folks that come out of the military, hydraulics, pneumatics, statistics, process control, problem solving, troubleshooting, leadership skills, showing up on time.
Showing up on time.
Yeah,
on time is late. That's a skill.
You laugh, but it's true. So they bring really some strong foundational skills. The challenge was initially when we were looking at it is that the MOS different branches of the service have different MOSs, they're called. And we were trying to figure out how to map that we ended up coming up with in our system, a national talent hub. It doesn't make any difference where you've acquired the skill set. You can come in, establish a profile in that system. It will read where you came from, what you know, and match you to the current. It's a dynamic system, the current needs of industry. It also aligns curriculum from all the various providers of training and education. It in real time, it's a dynamic system, aligns training. So think about the veteran or the individual, the adult looking to map a career or education. Think about the employer with the job requirements, and think about the whoever provides the training. It, in real time, aligns them. So those veterans come out, instead of getting ghosted because they don't have 5 years of specific advanced manufacturing skill, they actually can leverage it and get respect for what they have learned and go right into those programs.
So how does, I want to talk about the CHIPS Act and I want to talk about AI. Let's start with the CHIPS Act. How does $50 billion going into to encourage semiconductor companies to build plants in America through all kinds of tax breaks and incentives and R&D credits and so on. How does the CHIPS Act and the construction of fabrication facilities in the United States change the game for what you're doing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So on one note, it's really powerful and really good that the U.S. has that form of industrial policy and funding behind it. So it's a kind of an awakening from a nation perspective. Really good. It's an important, very strategic industry sector, as I'm sure you know. The flip side of that is whenever you offer funding, people come out of the woodwork to submit proposals. Fund me, I'll develop this, I will do that. So inherently, you have a fragmentation of efforts, and people oftentimes will offer to develop something that may have already been developed. Like we're a 501c3. We've developed what we have with federal funding. We're the nation's, the U.S. Department of Labor's national intermediary for innovative competency-based registered apprenticeships for semiconductor nanotech sector supply chain, right? That's all funded. So those funds should be spent in the same area, right? Same regions, but to deploy, not develop. So it's really interesting. There's this awakening, funding being spent. By the way, it's really not that much. You say 52 billion, 52,000 million. Whoa, right? Let me tell you, 39 billion, that goes out the door to build fabs. Then the remaining 13 billion or whatever is research and workforce. Everybody's supposed to have workforce part of their proposals. It's really not that much money. We absolutely are combating fragmentation and helping regions to know how to best deploy and not develop. But it's very interesting, very interesting. A good problem to have, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and look, it's a good thing to get our workers ready for the next generation, and it's here. And AI is here too. And I think that we see so many second derivative, third derivative impacts of AI. And I wonder, in terms of the entry-level workforce, 'cause I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. What does AI mean for entry-level workers and preparing them for jobs to work in AI?
Yeah, I would say entry-level technicians of all levels, even lower-level engineers. Let's say technicians. So it's a really interesting dynamic, because if you think about artificial intelligence, and by the way, if you ask 10 people about their definition of artificial intelligence, you probably get 10 different definitions, right? But if you just think about it conceptually, there's no doubt over time there will be some of the existing workforce will be replaced because of artificial intelligence and what those capabilities are. But there's also additional jobs that will be created because of it's almost like when you went to automated fabs. You people say, gee, you build an automated fab, there goes all the people that used to run the carts around with the wafers. Now it's all on a track. No, you still have 3,000 workers, 2,000 are technicians. They're just deployed differently. So I think that there's the foundational translational skills that are needed across technicians in advanced manufacturing and tech. That foundation will remain. It's some of the other skills, think of the little bit higher level skills or differentiators that we'll need to prepare the workforce in. So I think there'll be a shifting in the workforce. We need to realize what's going to be going away and realize what we need to focus on. But importantly, which is again a pillar of our strategy, make sure that we build those broad population with those foundational translational skills. I think the other flip side of
Go ahead. No, please.
I was going to say the flip side of artificial intelligence is really how will it impact education, right? Think about rural communities or people that don't have access to this classroom. And you think about, how 3D is already being leveraged in training and education, right? Put you right in with whatever you're working on or the application that you're building or deploying. Think about what artificial intelligence can do also. So there's really two sides to the AI coin, the way I look at it.
What do you think of there was a story in the Wall Street Journal. I read it online. I started to read it online on Monday. Didn't finish it. The physical paper came out on Tuesday. I did finish it. But it was an interesting piece about people. It started with sort of how to change your resume and make it look ready for AI. But then it started with kind of training and talking about getting sort of the necessary tools and stating your past experiences as if they were AI experiences or the AI worthy credits and the things that people have done in the past. And I wonder what you thought of that piece of that idea of recasting your resume in terms of AI.
I have mixed feelings about that. That's like chasing the cat around the yard, right? I think that being able to convey that you have those strong foundational skills required across any form of tech. Now, you were talking about technician. This is our focus, right? Not design
Right.
and engineering, right? If you can articulate that you have those strong foundational skills that can be applied to AI, I think that is more practical, especially as we're in an era where we're even defining AI, right? So I'm not going to agree or disagree with the article. I'm not going to go there. But I do think there is something to be said for really having those strong foundational skills and being able to articulate them in a way that they apply to the tech sector, whether it be semiconductor, whether it be biomanufacturing, any form of nanotechnology, et cetera, because they will apply to AI.
Let me ask you lastly, what is the biggest change you think of in the ability of people to use AI to both train themselves and get themselves ready and their presentation of their work ready or their careers ready to work in AI?
Yeah. So in the presentation piece, can you imagine how someone will be able to go in front of a screen, make their presentation, make their pitch, develop their application, via online, and then have AI take it and refine it and play it back to you, and how you can tweak that and get it ready for, showtime, right? It's interesting when you see now about how some of the applications that they're talking about, you don't even know who you're talking to anymore. When you hear somebody online, did they really say it, right? Geez, has to be them. It looks just like them. Well, that same technology can be used when you're developing your presentation skills, as well as if you're developing design or applications, et cetera. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, I think it's really going to be endless moving forward on how you can refine what you present, whether it be operationally, whether it be from a design or from an education or an actual presentation, right?
It's a fascinating time to enter into tech.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's just moving so quickly, and actually, AI is at the point where it's actually improving itself as quickly as we can sit here and talk about it. Right? I don't know how you keep up with that, and that's another reason why it doesn't make sense to try to keep your resume up with it. Right? Make sure you have those strong skills and the attributes needed to succeed in that new world.
He's Mike Russo, the CEO of the National Institute for Industry and Career Advancement. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Great talk to you.